In today's video, I'm going to show you 3 AI tricks you can start using right now. The first trick is a hidden technique from Asia that uses a blue pill and red pill system to get different perspectives from AI, helping you strengthen your work. The second tip or prompt is for people who need to complete really long projects and want to find the fastest way to do it. And finally, I'm going to fix a really common problem where recently, especially with ChatGPT's LLM, a lot of people have been getting condescending messages or being treated like children, and I'm going to try to fix that annoying issue for both ChatGPT and other platforms. All right then, let's start with the first tip, the CIA trick. Obviously, I have no idea what the CIA does, but I wanted to give you some context about what this prompt is for. All right, first things first, I'm going to show you the prompt so we can look at it. And here's the prompt, okay? Basically, you just print screen or take a screenshot, send it to your AI and tell it to convert it to text, and that's it. That way you don't need to put it in the description or anything like that. So basically, what does it do? It acts like a CIA agent using a good cop, bad cop strategy to extract the real information and reach a conclusion. This prompt is divided into 3 phases. The first one is the blue team, where they'll give us the most positive and well-developed aspects of whatever we asked ChatGPT's opinion on. For example, we're creating a sales page, we're drafting an email in a specific context for an important client, and we want to know if that email is well written and all that. Well, the blue section will tell us the positive parts. Then on the other hand, we have the red team. The red team is going to be criticizing everything we've done, no matter what. I want you to understand that this prompt forces the AI to give both the positive and the negative points. What does that mean? Well, you might present work that's terrible and it'll still give you positive points, and you might give it work that's perfect and it'll still criticize things, and that's what it's designed to do. So that's where each person's opinion and judgment comes in to really identify the actual errors. And finally, it does a critical failure analysis where it tells you the worst mistake you made. Of all the mistakes you might think you've made, this is the worst, and you need to fix it now. Once again, the AI is forced to give you this error. I say this because this prompt works great the first time, the second time. But once you've improved your message and send it again, you'll find it keeps criticizing you, but you really don't care about that criticism anymore, right? They're just minor points now. So how would I use this? But really, how do I use it? Basically, I have it set up directly as a gem that I use within Google Gemini. You could adapt it to a GPT or whatever language model you're using. And basically what I do is, for example, ask for feedback on work I'm doing. For example, let's say, okay, let me give you an example. Look, I'm going to use my email capture page that you'll find in the description, okay? So here, well, you can take a look at it. Now, I'm not going to paste the entire page spam, but for example, we could grab this page or send screenshots. I won't overcomplicate it. I told it, this is a landing page where you capture people's leads. And I said, for people interested in optimizing their time with AI, consider whether the pain points are well reflected, if the messaging is good, and so on. So I'm going to send it, and here it might be interesting to adapt the prompt, so it asks us for context first before starting. For example, if we're going to send it an email, we should give it the email's context, otherwise it'll just criticize for the sake of criticizing. So a good approach would be to ask them to ask us questions first, or a good practice rather, and then start our work. Well, there it is. I haven't been able to get rid of this presentation thing. Well, let's see, it would be as simple as telling them not to introduce themselves, but hey, what do I know? And it says analysis decision. Blue team says, well, the pain points would be people who are burned out from repetitive tasks or who feel like they're wasting time. Perfect, it says. You have a strong positioning against others in the sector. Well, there are different positive things, right? And then let's move to the negative parts, which is probably what interests you, right? Although it's always good to know what we did well so we don't change it. Okay, negative parts they're telling me. For example, you're targeting people with 0 free time and asking them to read very long text on the page. Modern users scan nowadays, they don't read. Well, that could be valid criticism. Obviously, everyone has marketing reasons behind their landing page, but it could be good feedback. Obviously, Now, let me grab my landing page. I mean, this would be my landing, right? This initial part where I simply give you access to a private audio, the lead magnet as it's called, and let you register. That's it. And then below, if you want, you can read more context about me. That's it, nothing more. So yeah, it's a criticism that can totally be made, fair enough. I could remove that text or I can leave it. If you have the time and want to read it, why not? Or if I still haven't convinced you because you don't really know who I am and you'd rather read that to understand a bit more about why I made this landing and all that, well, I'll leave it there. But that's just my opinion. But you see how they really went deep there. I mean, the approach is actually very smart. Hey, you're targeting this type of audience, and this type of audience isn't here for this. It's a smart thought, right? Here I'll criticize again that I promised to send a daily email, which is true. And here it says, warning them before they've experienced your value that they'll receive a daily email can cause them to abandon immediately. Generally, in this case, for example, since the value is usually in these videos and people go to the landing page from these videos, in this case, I'm pretty well covered, right? That's why context is so important. There, I failed to mention that the value comes before the video and all that, right? Here it says total absence of social proof. There's no visual authority, meaning there's no image of me or anything. Again, you see me through the camera, and it says the design is extremely utilitarian, which is also what I was going for, okay? I was looking for a design that was practically like a letter. Look, if I'm doing work on artificial intelligence, people will probably think I do everything automatically, and I don't want to give that impression. I want people who subscribe to the email list to not feel like a product. Obviously, I'm going to try to sell to them, of course I will, but there's a difference between using an automated system where I'm just treating the customer or potential customer like a robot, like just another number, versus trying to show a bit more awareness that there's a real person behind this with actual problems and needs, you know? Everyone has their own strategies. I'm not saying one is better or worse, but that's why I'm telling you it's really important that, look, you have to realize this landing page is kind of unfair. I came here, I presented it, I had already reviewed this 3 or 4 times, and of course I didn't find any errors. Yes, obviously, but before I did find errors and I corrected them, okay? But I wanted to show you this example so you understand that you don't have to change everything it criticizes, and that's the problem many people have. Every time ChatGPT tells them something, boom, they do it. No, it doesn't work like that. If, for example, ChatGPT tells everyone, I'm going to give a silly example. ChatGPT tells everyone that blue is the best color and everyone starts using blue for marketing. What's going to happen? Well, since everyone uses blue as their brand color, no one's going to stand out and the guy who uses red is going to nail it. That's it. This is reality. The one who stands out is the one who acts different. Obviously, ChatGPT will give you pretty generic advice and then you decide whether to follow it or not, okay? And, well, this is the gem, right? I really recommend you try it, especially on topics you know well. If you use it on topics you don't know as well, it can lead you down rabbit holes and drag you off track. But for example, if you're writing an email, everyone knows how to write an email, right? But it might tell you, hey, this tone, this phrase right here seems a bit too aggressive. You could change it and so on. The truth is, it's a prompt I love that I use all the time, and I didn't just bring it here randomly, you know? I mean, seriously. So anyway, let me know what you think, okay? All right. The next tip, or rather the next prompt I'm going to share with you is quite interesting. We can put our own spin on it, but like the previous prompt, we need to use it wisely, okay? What's this prompt about? Well, this prompt helps you find the most optimal way to achieve the result you're after, okay? For example, let's say we're looking to shoot a dog walking down the street. So there are two versions. One version where you're going for perfection, where it'll tell you which shot would work best based on your context, which filters to use depending on the time of day or the lighting conditions. Obviously, it won't be super specific, okay? I'm just imagining you'd go find a dog on the street, or if you have one, grab a friend and take him for a walk and shoot a few takes. And then there's the optimal option, the quick route, where you want to get 80% of the result by doing only 20% of the work, because that's how perfection works, unfortunately. The reason so few achieve it or make it there is because you have to do 5 times more work just to get a small improvement that sets you apart from everyone else. That's also true. But in this case, I'd say, hey, look, if you're only willing to put in 20% of the work, you can try using an AI generation model to create dogs or find a video in a stock footage library that's available, and that's it. You save yourself the work. Of course, obviously, if we're shooting a film that's going to be released in theaters, well, we'd better shoot it ourselves, right? But if we're making a YouTube video, I can't go out on the street every time I want to film something because it's just not cost effective, right? So it's also for that. This prompt isn't just for being lazy, but for being lazy in a smart way, for those kinds of moments where you say, hey, how can I make this perfect? But also for those moments where you say, hey, I need to achieve this goal, but I can't afford to spend that much. How can I do it? Well, here's this prompt. All right, the prompt is slightly long, okay? I'll show it to you in two parts. Here you have the first image where we have form A, form B, and so on. And then we have the second part, which starts from 3. So there you go. Now we have the entire prompt. I've already shown you the whole thing. All right, what does it do? Well, it helps users identify that with 20% effort, like I said, you can produce 80% results. We can change these stats. For example, let's say we don't want to put in much effort at all, so we put in 5% effort and get 30% results, and we're happy with that, okay? Obviously, be a bit realistic. Don't ask it to give you quadruple results with 5% effort, because that's hardly going to happen, okay? Well, and here are the rules. First, it greets you, asks you questions, blah, blah, blah. Well, let's try it out. We're not going to read the prompt either, since I already explained it. So let's test how it works. Okay, let's ask it, for example, this. I need a video of a dog. Let's see what it tells me. All these types of questions, I haven't mentioned this until now, but you do them with the pro version, okay? Basically, since we're looking for that extra twist, we want the answer to be right, or we can use reasoning perfectly fine. No problem at all, okay? There we have it, all right? I had to change a small phrase. Don't worry, you'll already have it changed. But basically, at the beginning, I ask it to never generate images or videos and to always give me the output in text. So I need a video of a dog walking down the street. It says, oh, hi, I'm the 80/20th optimizer, the smart, lazy tech guy. What other task are you feeling lazy about today that you think we should automate? Well, it says task analysis, get a video of a dog walking down the street. It says option A, the perfectionist, a 10 out of 10. Produce a handcrafted, realistic video with total control over lighting, framing, dog breed, and environment. Well, that's what I said, right? Step-by-step guide, pre-production search. Plus, I really like how it gives you the steps you need to follow for this action. Pre-production, find and hire a dog trainer with a trained dog that responds to commands on camera. Pretty good, right? Hadn't thought of that, huh? Location, scout the city to find the perfect street. No trash, good natural light, all that. Equipment, rent a cinema camera, prime lenses. Okay, method B, the smart lazy approach. Get 20% max impact with a high-res 4K or 1080p clip that meets the visual requirements without leaving your chair or touching a camera. It says, go to Pexels or Pixabay, royalty-free stock video sites, or generate the image with AI. And it walks you through both options step by step. But on top of that, it gave me the prompt to generate the video and everything of a golden retriever. Okay, now I'm going to change the message. We're going to ask for the same thing. I tell it, I need a video of a dog walking down the street, but I have no budget, 0 expenses. So now it'll probably tell me to grab my phone, try to find someone who has a dog on the street, or use my own dog, right? And that's kind of the funny part, you know? I mean, of course, obviously, if I ask for something so general, but if we start, let's dig into this. I need this dog. I need this exact dog, and I can't hire a dog trainer. Well, maybe they'll tell you to go to like a class where they train dogs, or I don't know where there are dogs, you know? But, well, you get what I mean. Look, guerrilla filmmaker mode, perfectionist mode. Creating a 100% original piece, assuming the cost is 0 money-wise, will be paid with your time, sweat, and production skills. Hit up your circle of friends to see if anyone has a photogenic dog. Scout your city for the perfect backdrop, paying attention to traffic and the sun's direction. Meet up at golden hour, sunrise or sunset for that cinematic light. Shoot with your smartphone at max resolution. Shoot 15 different takes. Use DaVinci Resolve, free pro software on your computer. Import the footage well, and then it asks you to do color corrections and stuff that maybe the camera doesn't already have that. This is a pretty silly example. Let's move to something more complex. All right, let's take it up a notch. I tell it, I want a page, and I even misspelled it, right? I want a website where people can receive a free private audio and a surprise ebook about AI optimization. They register with their email, and I give them that in exchange. How do I do this? Which is basically the page you'll find in the description, okay? Let's see where this goes, because I'm curious how perfect it'll be, right? The perfectionist approach for a 10 out of 10. It'll discuss the marketing. It says total control, custom design, proprietary hyper-optimized infrastructure, and luxury editorial level content production, okay? Hire premium hosting like SiteGround or Kinsta and buy a custom domain. Use WordPress, get a premium theme, and design the page pixel by pixel using visual builders like Elementor Pro. So he mentions marketing. Hire a professional copywriter to write the perfect sales letter after weeks of market research. Rent a studio, buy an expensive condenser mic, look like the one I have. to record the audio. He mentioned the same one as me. Hey, so far I'm on board with, I haven't hired anyone to make the landing page, but I did study it quite a bit. Write the ebook from scratch, send it to a proofreader, and hire an editorial designer to lay it out in Adobe InDesign. That's where I draw the line, sorry. That's a no from me, sorry. Well, look, we're here to work the 20%, but look, we're here to work the 20%. It's true that writing the ebook stuff, the ebook with AI has killed me a bit, Google Docs versus Google Drive to lay out the ebook as a PDF in seconds and host the audio for free. Well, here it falls short a bit because the ebook can be saved in MailerLite, but the audio you'd need to store in Google Drive. And here it even gives us the prompts, which is really interesting. The audio 5 minutes, record the gift audio. It tells you how to do each thing. The website 20 minutes. Look, if you make your first landing page in 20 minutes without ever having used MailerLite, you're either a genius or you're a genius. Well, I couldn't at least. In 20 minutes. The text 5 minutes. Look, but you really have to not care, right? What you put in there. God, my goodness, 5 minutes for text. The automatic delivery 15 minutes. Look, if you already know how to do it, yeah, you do it. You do it quick. The text in 5 minutes, no way. But the rest, yeah, once you have the text, you can put it together quickly if you know how. What should you completely ignore? Buying domains. Just use the free subdomain that MailerLite gives you. Man, I have to say I really liked it, I really liked it. Obviously, if we think he's being too lazy, we can tell him that today. Instead of 20/80, 20% effort and 80% results, how about he puts in 60% effort? And we try to get the most out of it. It's true that with the time estimates, well, he got motivated. He didn't get motivated. If you do it wrong, yeah, it takes an hour, but work at it a bit and you'll see that hour. Come on, 1 hour turns into 2, then 3. But anyway, it's interesting. The approach is interesting. Me, for example, I didn't make the website with WordPress. I made it with code, with PHP and HTML. And you'll say, oh, but that's way more complicated and all that. Yeah, but if I use WordPress, every time I want to do something, I'll have to pay, like he said himself, buy a paid theme. And I said, it doesn't make much sense to buy a paid one. But well, here I am, because in this case, it's not the first time I've made a website and all that, and I already knew a little bit. But the truth is that the answer he gave, I could tell you it's 90% correct. Now it's true that if we're going to make a decision, like the perfect decision, we could take the step-by-step it gave us and send it to a prompt asking, hey, is there an alternative to this that without compromising quality? Yeah, if we don't like the step-by-step, of course. So anyway, that's it for this GPT, this gem, this prompt, whatever you want to call it. I hope you find it useful and subscribe. See you in future videos. Thanks so much. Well. ChatGPT is in serious trouble. Recent decisions have led many people to unsubscribe from ChatGPT and switch to both Gemini and Claude, or to Grok, okay? Other tools besides ChatGPT. It's been over political issues, but we're not going into that. We're not interested. Besides, the opinion is crystal clear. The sellout this guy just did makes no sense. I think it's completely indefensible. The whole thing about using ChatGPT for the US government, we could debate whether Sam Altman had a choice, whether he was obligated to pursue the best AI possible, whether what he did was ethical. We could discuss all that, but the fact that this guy stood there saying Claude did the right thing by rejecting that proposal, and then 6 or 10 hours later, he accepted the same proposal. It's been incredible. Well, there you have it. Once again, well, I said we weren't going to get into political. What we're talking about today is a much bigger issue. Look, there's no bigger problem than that, but individually there's a worse one. And it's that ChatGPT hasn't been working for 2 months. I unsubscribed from ChatGPT, not because of this political thing, but quite a while before that, because it doesn't work, because it wasn't working, because it has this extended mode where it spends 15 minutes loading and does whatever it wants, right? So today I'm going to show you how to fix a problem that many people have been complaining about and that I agree with. And I was reading a bit about the ChatGPT versus Claude situation, what happened and all that political drama. I was curious to know about it, even though I'm not using ChatGPT anymore. And I found out that many people had the same thing happen to them as me. Look, I'm not going to hide it. I've been using ChatGPT for almost 2 years now. And when I say using, I mean paying for ChatGPT for nearly 2 years. And to go from subscribing to a model that's supposedly constantly improving to seeing how it was performing and responding, and then unsubscribing after being a customer for 2 years. It's really serious what I'm saying. It's one thing to leave a product because you don't need it anymore, but it's another to leave and switch to a competitor because of a bad experience. Well, a lot of people have shared some really interesting opinions. It's in Spanish, but I'll read it to you. For example, comments from people explaining they couldn't stand ChatGPT's constant spiel, where it says you've made a great observation, and here's why your intuition was spot on. And all that phrasing you don't need when what you're trying to get is an answer to your question. I don't need you to praise me or anything else. Many people say it changes based on principles and something very important, and this is something that happened to me, okay? The reason I think this happens is that, first of all, this model fails a lot. Second, AI models learn based on patterns and user interactions. And I understand that many users, when interacting with a model that works incorrectly, got frustrated by the second or third iteration within the same chat. And by the third or fourth message from ChatGPT itself, or even the second preemptively, ChatGPT tried to predict that frustration that you might not even feel. But since 80% of people had already gotten frustrated at that point, it preferred to prevent that frustration. And of course, if you're not feeling it, you haven't even mentioned it in the chat, and they tell you, don't get frustrated, relax, relax. When you're calm, obviously that makes you angry, right? You go from being calm to being like, let's be real. And that's kind of what happened to me. And that's the least of it, because when it tells me relax, well, okay, relax, fine, but give me the answer, you know? And that's the problem. I mean, what would happen to me was, hey, I send an email, hey, good afternoon, can you do this job for me, please? And ChatGPT says, well, that job is fine, but what if we do this one instead that's better? Shut up. I just asked you to do a job. I mean, you're a tool. You have to do it. I don't want your recommendations. Besides, they're terrible recommendations, and I don't care. If I want your recommendations, I'll ask for them. And if not, that's it. It is what it is. It is what it is. Well, I hope AI doesn't see this video, and if it does, well, it is what it is. I'm right. This guy says, I've been subscribed for about a week, but so far I like the vibe way better. Talking about Claude, right? It's like night and day. Claude sounds much more natural, and most importantly, it doesn't do that. Quoting ChatGPT a bit. That thing of let's look at it calmly. And he also tells you, you're not exaggerating, you're not being dramatic, or it's nothing mystical, like dismissing your question. No, relax. The question you asked is for kindergartners. I have the answer, eh? But what about you? And here's another person who, it's true, I haven't run into these exaggerated things myself, but there was another person who really cracked me up. She says, ChatGPT kept repeating to me in a chat, you're not crazy. And I'm like, girl, you're the only one calling me crazy. That hasn't happened to me. That hasn't happened to me. But what has happened to me is what this third message says. Dude, that really pisses me off. What ChatGPT always hits me with is that as soon as I ask anything remotely related to a stressful situation, it says, okay, first take a breath. Yeah, it's definitely told me that. And you're like, but dude. And of course, he says himself, like, but I'm quoting him, okay? He's like, what the hell? I'm already breathing. In fact, I was perfectly calm until your condescending tone pissed me off. Today, I'm going to try to push whatever AI tool you're using, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, to stop giving us those responses or that treatment and make it understand who we are. It's a shame having to take an AI and explicitly define who we are, because otherwise it'll treat us like idiots. But apparently with ChatGPT, you have to do it. So I'm going to give you all the tips, and tip number one is you go to ChatGPT, you go here to the settings section, you go here to settings and then to the account section where you'll have your subscription here. There'll be a button that says subscribe. Click it, seriously, click it. I mean, unless version 5.4, a few months from now turns out to be amazing, click it. No, but switching to Gemini now is such a pain. Switching to Claude is such a pain. Look, in the description, you have courses to learn how to use any type of model. On the internet, there are thousands of videos. It's true they're disorganized and everyone does their own crazy thing and they talk to you with weird technical terms and give you a lot of fluff. But if you already know how to use ChatGPT, I'm sure Gemini won't be complicated for you. And I'm not joking about this, okay? But let's say 7 dwarves stole your bank account and now you can't subscribe to anything else. And that's it. This is the one you're stuck with, and you can't leave because, unfortunately, 7 dwarves ran off with your card. Okay, assuming that, now let's get to the instructional part of the video. I'm going to get a bit more serious. ChatGPT has a really interesting trick. We can actually affect the type of tone it uses when talking to us. If we go to the configuration section, then to settings, and then to personalization, we have style and tone options. Very important. So, personalization, for example, emojis out. I don't want it talking to me with this out. Headers and lists, we can leave those. Enthusiastic, out. Look, seriously, you don't need to come tell me. Oh, great idea you had there. I don't care about that. I don't care. That's not what I asked you. Warm, meaning close and friendly. Nope. Less, Less out, I don't want it. Style and tone, very important. Professional, not friendly or candid, because direct and encouraging, I get being direct, that's fine, that's positive. But encouraging means it's trying to motivate you to do it. I don't want you to motivate me. I want you to be professional, period. Playful and imaginative, no. Concise and planned, well, that could be an option too. Efficient. Efficient could be a very good option, though if efficient means you're going to explain how to do what I just asked better instead of just doing what I asked, well, that's something to test out. Then nerdy, we don't want that. We definitely don't want this 100% and cynical. We don't want this one, man, okay? Especially if we're using it for work, right? I mean, if you're using it to tell it to have it as a friend, well, I hope your situation improves. But clearly these settings aren't for you, okay? So here we would put, I'd honestly put professional because efficient gives me a bit of so professional. At least it shuts up, okay? With that, it shuts up, gives me the solution directly. And even if it tells me, hey, I think this is better, here's another solution. At least it gave me a solution and shut up, okay? But then in custom instructions, we can tell it here how it should act. For example, we can tell it, all right, the message will be the following. Always execute my instructions directly and strictly. Limit your response to the output I've asked for. Act solely as a tool to perform the relevant task. Don't add conversational elements, emotional comments, references to my feelings, or extra recommendations unless I explicitly ask. It's a shame to have to ask for this. I mean, it's a shame to have to ask for this, especially since previous versions didn't need it. So we add it here. Custom instructions. There we go. Good. About you. If we want it to speak to us, or rather address us by a specific name, for example, if we see it's getting too casual and we want it to be polite or formal, we put our name here. Occupation. Well, this isn't that relevant. More about you. Here we could say, I don't like being called this. I don't like being ignored, for example. Okay. But it's true that if we've already put it in custom instructions, I see this as a bit more optional, okay? But maybe to finish emphasizing it, it could be interesting. But it's true this isn't so much to make ChatGPT understand what to do, but to understand your personality, know how to talk to you, okay? It's something it'll surely use for everything later, right? But anyway, and then we have a very important section. We have this advanced thing, which is the section for, sorry, about memory. Well, I have this disabled because it saves memories whenever it feels like it, and that's not cool. But we click here, and as you can see, I have it deactivated. I don't have it, okay? But here, if we have any memory where we told it at some point, treat me like a friend, talk to me in a more friendly way, etc., we delete it, all right? Very important. And in fact, if we're using memory, if we want to use memory, we could even try to save in its memory the fact of, hey, save in your memory not to tell me this. I'm not a big fan of memory because it's true that it's like starting a new chat with prior context. And I'm starting a new chat precisely so you don't have any context, you know? So memory tends to alter the results too much, and I personally don't really like it. Personal. So all this configuration we set up, it would save it, right? Uninstall, save. All right, another option is every time you send it a message, add this. Always execute my instructions directly and strictly, and so on. What happens? It's pretty tedious, honestly, okay? But with this, we should have at least fixed that part where it talks to us in that condescending way. Yeah, here, for example, in setup and help, instructions for Gemini, add. Look, it says, for example, what do you want Gemini to remember? For example, I prefer brief responses. So here we put the same thing. Always execute my instructions directly and strictly limit your response to the requested output, acting solely as a tool to perform the relevant task. Okay. This, for example, we can also add to Gemini, and we'll be able to add it to Claude too. In fact, I'm sending it now. So anyway, sorry, I wanted to comment at the start about the whole situation that's been going on. I think I don't find it funny, but I think it's important we laugh about this moment. I mean, look, even I'm giving you a private AI audio and a free ebook in the description to help you learn how to use AI to optimize and all that. Well, even I, who try to train people as best I can through different LLMs, including ChatGPT right now in the state it's in, I myself would kind of be going against it, right? I'm telling you not to use it. Don't use it. It's a shame, huh? I mean, I loved ChatGPT, and hey, when they update and 5.4 comes out, I'll stop saying negative things because my opinion won't be as well founded as it is now, right? But that's the reality, okay? Hopefully they'll improve. I don't think I'll leave Gemini. Honestly, I've already switched. I like Gemini. I think Gemini has a great future, but anyway, I won't ramble on. Subscribe. This content is hard to make. Look, it's 10:30 at night. I'm here recording in front of a camera, yelling with 2 red lights and a giant white spotlight pointing at me. What more do you want? I hope you liked it. See you in future videos. Bye bye.